is Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We
What
are
up,
Jalen
dog?
and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We give the people what they want.
Donovan Mitchell had 57 points in a loss, and the Celtics beat the 76ers, and the Raptors absolutely dominated the Nets. But we start late last night with Luka facing off against the Clippers, and it was just too much for the Mavs. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both scored a lot of points and got clutch buckets down the stretch to beat the Mavericks. Jalen, what were your big takeaways from this late night contest?
The best wing duo in the league. And for those that don't know, Anthony Davis, Giannis, they're not wings. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, lock down defensively, get you buckets off the dribble and pick and roll actions. They can go one-on-one. They do things that you can't just draw up on the board, Jacoby. And so when those guys get going against the Mavs, it shows their depth. And it was terrific to see Kawhi hit a couple of key buckets, but don't sleep on Morris Sr.'s contribution, because I've been waiting on him to provide that level of toughness and productivity up front. And he was the guy that got under KP's skin that ultimately led to him getting ejected.
Not just that, but we do have to celebrate Luka, because we know what Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are capable of. And in Luka's first playoff appearance, he scored more than anyone in the history of the NBA ever scored in their first playoff experience. And one of the things about this matchup that was so tough for him is they have PG and Kawhi, as you mentioned, two of the best wing defenders that they could put in front of him. And it really didn't matter what they put in front of him, because he just kind of figured it out. Look at that little sidestep. And even without KP in the game, he kept this team close. I was really impressed by Luka. What do you think?
I love his game so much, and his pace and his demeanor, and he kills you in all phases. Like, he's not an accurate three-point shooter just yet. He's low 30s, but every time he shoots it, it seems like it's going in because he has a signature shot, his step back. And his court says once he gets inside the three-point line, every player is active. He could kick it out to the three-point line early or late. He could pass people open underneath the basket. He could throw the lob pass. And he finishes with both hands, and he's bigger and stronger than people give him credit for. And he initially, had some jitters, in my opinion, and got off to a slow start. He was high turnovers in that game, in particular, to start the game. But he went to the locker room, and like Maria Taylor said, he got it out of his own bag. Okay, because Luka is that phenomenal of a player. And so to watch him get going against that defensive team, Jacoby, I agree. You might be on to something when you say these guys got a chance to win a championship in the next couple of years.
And I loved the way he passes. When he penetrates, it seems like no one can stay in front of him, even though he's not the quickest guy in the court. And he doesn't just make the simple pass to the corner or that initial help person. He'll sort of look that person off, get to the second rotation, then hit Steph Curry. Like, he's seeing things out there that you really shouldn't be seeing in your first playoff appearance. To just sort of run the game and run the offense the way he did was really, really impressive. However, they did lose. And, one of the factors to their loss was, as you alluded to earlier, the ejection of Kristaps Porzingis, who got 2 technical fouls. Did he deserve these technical fouls? Probably, but maybe not cumulatively. Do you know what I mean? Like, the first one, he maybe not should have gotten that one for reacting, but he certainly reacted. This one, he did not step in to sort of stop the altercation. He might have sort of made it a bit bigger of a deal. Jalen, there's a lot of backlash on the internet and on social media and amongst the media that he should not have been ejected. How do you feel about it?
Not many times I actually get to be a parent in a room. I at 47, I'm in the room with 17-year-olds, especially at JRLA, and my kids, they're a lot smarter and way more disciplined than me. But let me just tell everybody something. Kristaps Porzingis, yeah, it was soft, like Dirk tweeted. Yeah, it was petty, like LeBron and Patrick Mahomes felt. But you know what he did? He broke the rule. And when you throw an air punch in an NBA playoff game, the officials are going to call it technical every time. That's just the rule. It wasn't personal. They didn't pick on him. When you interject yourself into a situation when you already have a technical foul, you have to be conscious of that. It was an NBA classic. Hold me back. And you allowed that to let you get ejected? Jacoby, you got to stay in the game, man. Let somebody else that we don't know who their name is get into that huffing and puffing with Morris Sr. and give them a chance to take game one. Trust me, he's going to tell – he's not going to allow himself to be put in that position again and get ejected.
You know, when the Clippers got into the next huddle, everyone gave Morris Sr. a pound and we're like, good work out there. That's what you're here for. And you know that's indicative when you're Kristaps Porzingis if the other team is celebrating like that because you got sort of, you got involved into an altercation. We've been looking at these stars, these superstars with Luka and PG and Kawhi and KP and the way that they play. But one thing we always also want to point out is what Rick Carlisle's been doing with some of his press conferences. Let's just take a listen.
Los Angeles, California, sparked by white police beating of a young black man, leave 34 dead, 1,032 injured, nearly 4,000 arrested, and 40 million in damage.
Love what he is doing with that. And that was the last game of the evening. And now it's time to take it to the best game of the day, which was the first playoff action in the season in the bubble. And what a game it was between the Nuggets and the Jazz going back and forth. Donovan Mitchell had a great performance, but it was Jamal Murray absolutely taking over down the stretch, scoring, assisting. And remember, he just got into game action in the bubble. He looked so good. What do you see from Jamal that you like?
Well, if you wanted Denver Nugget news, you come to Jalen and Jacoby the last couple of seasons as we've celebrated the growth of this roster. But it mushroomed from the Joker becoming an all-NBA performer, playing alongside Jamal Murray. And he's not a volume shooter, and he's not a guy that averages 25 points a game. But if the Nuggets weren't so deep and didn't run their offense through their center as they should, he could be in a situation where he averaged 25 points a game. He could shoot the three. He's really athletic. He could turn over both shoulders, and he plays with a great pace, and he's an underrated passer. And so when he's balling like he's playing, that now ascends the Denver Nuggets and people saying, oh, they do have a dynamic duo. And then if Michael Porter plays like he was playing initially in the bubble, that to me is what puts them in position to probably upset one of the LA teams. But they have one of those squads, Jacoby, and you know I love their depth, that you got to start creating a pecking order at some point. Because sometimes when I'm watching them play, it's like everybody got the green light, and that's cool. But if you shorten the rotation to me and acknowledge like Monte Morris, he going to be getting minutes every game. Like where you want certain guys, and Grant should be getting minutes every game. And that to me would allow them to really take advantage of all of the great talent that they've been able to develop on their team.
Interesting. We'll see if Mike Malone does that as the playoffs move on, because it seems like the Denver Nuggets will move on. But we need to celebrate a gentleman by the name of Donovan Mitchell. He put his sneakers on and scored 57 points for a Jazz team that was missing Mike Conley out of the bubble for the screens. Why do they keep doing that?
I think the theme song Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. I think that's how it went. How about a guy that's 6'1", but has a 6'11" wingspan, Jacoby? That is why you go through the air and pull the basketball down and let the defender pass by, and then you still dunk it on the way down in a playoff game. And no team is better without the guys that you mentioned that are out and not playing for the Jazz. But you know, because I've been telling you this since Donovan Mitchell got in the league, you got to put the ball in his hands the entire game. You got to have the ball in his hands.
Saw what happens.
That's his advantage.
When it happens.
Yeah, that's his advantage. Just think about this. He and Mike Conley are the same height. Okay, just think about that for a second. So they play vastly different. Okay, he's herky-jerky. He plays above the rim. He split screens. He's like really nifty. He need to have the ball all of the time. And so we learned that in the playoffs again last year. We're seeing it again in the playoffs this year. 57 points.
57 points. Jalen, ever since you're about 8 years old, you're told not to jump in the air and pass, but he jumps in the air and then surveys the situation while he's in the air, will pump fake one pass over here and finish another pass over there. It's just so impressive what I saw from him, but I have some bad news for Jazz fans. There's no way that they are going to win the title or even this series. And let me show you why. Because their main decision maker, their leader, Quinn Snyder, look at the pants on this dude. Those are too tight. Those pants are way too tight around the ankles, not wearing any socks. Like that, you can, if you made that decision when you got dressed, I do not trust you to make any decision after you made that decision when you got dressed. Jalen, will you be rocking the Quinn Snyder's pants next time you're on Countdown?
Oh, man. Maturity is an amazing thing when you decide certain fads and or gimmicks that you're not going to follow and you're just going to own who you are. And one of the things I decided maybe 10 or 15 years ago is there will not be a day I'm jumping up and down trying to put my pants on. There will not be a day I'm laying on a bed trying to put my pants on. I am not going to be able to do it.
As much as you and I are so proud that we never did the tight pants, we do have to look in the mirror and just recognize some of the gigantic pants that we wore in the late 90s. Because I had some parachute pants back in like 1998.
Well, what had happened was...
Jalen, we need you to take us behind the curtain. Jamal Murray, after a win, was getting some food, and because it is the Orlando bubble, things like this happen.
This crazy thing out here being in the bubble. I gotta see this dude right after the game. He just dropped 57.
See, Jalen, this seems fun. You know, they're having a little fun, celebrating the fact that he won 57. But how can this change playoff series? How can this change interplayer interactions and dynamics when after games you have to see them immediately?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
What happened? What happened?
I just had a flashback.
Are you okay? You okay?
Las Vegas, Nevada, Palms, leaving the blackjack table, feeling amazing. The air was just bubbling with enthusiasm. And then I walk in the 9 restaurant and I order my favorite, the lobster. And then I go to the laboratory and I look to my right. There's a legend, an icon named Kobe Bean Bryant having dinner with his bride. And he looks at me and he looks at the waiter and he says, I want a martini with 81 olives. And all of the other adults in the room didn't know what he was talking about, including the waiter. And then he looks at me and says, he gets it. I understand how you feel, Jamal, in a playoff game, 57 points, and you have to see Donovan Mitchell. Like, his shoes were still smoking, Jacoby. Like, it was still 57 points.
I know that him and Gobert don't get along, but not a single other teammate wants to have dinner with the dude after he dropped 57 and put the whole team on the back and put in overtime in a first.
Or maybe he didn't want to be around him.
Yeah,
maybe he was on the phone with his
agent. He's like, what do you need me to score 58? Is that what I need to do? Nah, I'm good. Y'all go to dinner. I'll join y'all later. For real, you know, that's exactly what he did. The difference between Jamal Murray and you is Murray won the game, and you and the Raptors got waxed by Kobe Bean Bryant. We have so much more to get to.
The legend,
make sure you stay
Kobe
tuned.
Bean Bryant.
Playoff basketball. You're watching. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. It is time for Jalen's favorite segment where he decides what we discuss. It's time.
Woo,
keep it moving.
Tang, woo, Tang.
If you want to discuss the topic, stay, hit the brakes. If not, we will keep it moving. And we start with one of the most anticipated series of the postseason.
Hit the brakes.
Tonight, it is the Blazers against the Lakers. A lot of people are saying the Blazers could be upsetting the Lakers. What do you think?
Superstar power, and I love it, Jacoby. LeBron James led the league in assists. Anthony Davis, All-NBA first team. Dame Dollar, top 5 dead or alive. I'm so enthusiastic about this. Nurkic had 20 and 20. Carmelo, LeBron, those dudes, I watched them play in high school, okay? They're playing against each other in the NBA game, in the playoffs, in 2020. I'm very excited. CJ McCollum, balling clutch, making big buckets. This is going to be a great series. However, where the Lakers are strong, in particular on the wing with LeBron James and Kyle Kuzma and that height and that athleticism, and Anthony Davis that can play multiple positions up front. Dwight Howard is going to be blocking shots, and JaVale McGee is going to be catching lobs. They have so much depth. I think the Lakers will win in 5.
Hard to disagree with that, but I do agree with this. It will be must-watch TV, and even if it ends in 5 games, it will be so much fun to watch for all those reasons that you gave. Another one that's going to be fun to watch for different reasons is the 4-5 matchup in the West, the Rockets and the Thunder. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
I love this series because I genuinely feel that Chris Paul really wants to prove to the Rockets that they shouldn't have traded him, and I really feel like he's going to get in a hold me back moment every single game in this series. I really think that's going to happen.
I feel like this is going to be a rock fight, a contrast of styles. The Rockets want to go bombs away from 3. The Oklahoma City Thunder want to probe the defense and get the best shot, and sometimes that's mid-range. So you're looking then at the 2 best players, James Harden versus Chris Paul. They used to be teammates, Jacoby. If James Harden still wanted Chris Paul to be in Houston, he will still be in Houston. So Chris Paul's going to be fired up to play against them. And I just feel bad for Russell Westbrook. He don't get a chance to play against his former squad. I'm hearing that he's going to miss a couple of games. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed the entire series. But either way, it's going to be a long series.
It's going to be a great one, and I just hope that my guy Steven Adams can stay on the floor because we're going to see Steven Adams trying to stay in front of James Harden, and I just hope he wins that matchup enough to stay on the floor. And now we go to the 4-5 in the other conference. It is the Heat against the Pacers. We'll hit the brakes on this one too. What do you think about the Pacers' chances in this one?
I can't wait to see TJ Warren go against Jimmy Butler in playoff action. Indiana and Miami, have their quasi-rivalry and have had multiple times where they face one another down in the regular season, but obviously they get created in the postseason. And then the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo's my most improved player, Duncan Robinson. They're such a much better team when he's on the floor. Your guy, Tyler Hero, there's a reason why the latter 2 guys are your favorite players. When are you going to put Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero up on the wall? What do they got to do for you? They got to win MVP? Like,
they got to beat the
what's
Bucks
going
in the
on?
second round. They got to beat the Bucks in the second round.
Okay.
Jalen,
That's fair.
I have an update on a potential new player joining one of your favorite teams in the NFL.
Hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes. Dez Bryant is going to get the workout that he's always wanted. He seems like he's been asking for a workout for 3 years now. He's going to get one with the Ravens. Do you think he ends up in the purple and black?
The wide receiver position has been one when the organizations could try to deem you as being loud and or outspoken to try to get you out of the game faster. We saw this happen with Dez. We saw it happen with Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens was just racing a cheetah, okay? And he's not in the league. So it's great for him to get this opportunity. Hopefully he's healthy and we'll see what happens.
I think he got a head start and still lost to the cheetah. Moving on. UNC football plans to play this season. Keep moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes on this.
They announced that they're going to stop in-person instruction on campus on Monday, but they plan to play this fall. Do you think that's going to actually happen in real life?
So let me get this right. So students aren't allowed to be on campus to go to class, but athletes are allowed to be on campus to play football. I'm fine with it. Just pay the players. Just pay the players.
Good point.
Just stop the shenanigans of student athletes. Let's negotiate.
And don't talk
something.
to me. Don't talk to me about
Let's
you
get
can
them a
use your
union.
likeness now. Like no, pay the players.
Yeah.
Not like you can go make money somewhere else from someone else. No, that's different. That's very different than you paying me. You telling me I'm allowed to make money somewhere else is not paying me. I want you, the university, to pay me, the player, because if no other students can come on campus, but I can come on campus. Seems like a little inequity there. That's all I got to say.
And like all human beings and adults and young adults, then they get to decide if they want to go to work during a pandemic or not. How about that?
Jalen, Joel Embiid and the Sixers almost beat the Celtics without Ben Simmons. And I'm going to tell you what Joel Embiid needs to do to get over the hump in game 2. Much more coming up.
Stay tuned. About
this. Jalen and Jacoby.
Can't wait to talk about this.
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, Tatum and Brown of the Celtics were just too much for the 76ers without Ben Simmons. What do you think about this game and this series moving forward?
Well, those are dynamic players, but you see who's playing defense in a couple of those plays? One of the most talented bigs in the league, Joel Embiid. And 40 points is what he's going to need to help keep his team in this series and to make it a long one. The problem is his injury history and his conditioning probably is not going to be up to par to not only be that anchor in the paint offensively, but be a pick and roll defender on the other end against multiple offensive players that are going to try to have him engaged in that action.
He played pretty well. He's just got to take more than 15 shots. You just have to take more than 15 shots if you're Joel Embiid with this Sixers roster.
He will.
Against such a small team as the Celtics. I expect a big game from him in game 2. He will
still
get
need Tobias, my nephew, family, and Al Horford to show up in ball too, though.
Jalen, the worst game of the day yesterday was between the defending champion Raptors and the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets got waxed. They made a little bit of a game in the third quarter, but got waxed ultimately. Do you think they can win a game in this series?
You know how much I love Toronto and the Raptors. And we're talking about the defending champions last on the show. You know how they're going to get their respect? Keep doing what they're doing and sweep their first-round opponent regardless of who it is. So we'll talk about Lowry. We'll talk about Van Vliet. We'll talk about Pascal Siakam. You saw Serge score over 20. They have a squad. They had a better record this year without Kawhi Leonard in the regular season than they had with him last year. They're a really good team. Stay tuned on the Raptors. They should be in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Jalen, today is the anniversary of the retirement of someone who's very important to the two of us, Larry Joe Bird. Celebrate our guy Larry real quick.
Legend. Oh, my goodness. First, his height. So imagine Luka Doncic a little bit taller. Imagine the Joker's rebounding as well. And his court vision was outstanding, like Magic Johnson. And he was my head coach. He's the reason why I love steak and lobster these days. Dan Le Batard.
We will be back tomorrow at 2.
Dan
Le Batard is next.